Call the meeting to order. The agenda of Oromocto Council is meeting Tuesday, 17th of March, 2026 at 5:30 p.m. at the Oromocto Municipal Building. I'll call for a mover for approval of the agenda. Deputy Mayor Mawhinney, Councillor Daw, seconder. Questions? All in favor? Contrary? Motion carried. We'll move right down to presentations. We'll start with 3A, the Knowledge Park presentation with Laura Oblinas from Stiletto. The floor is yours.
It's nice to see everybody. Happy St. Patrick's Day to all, and thank you for the invitation to be here with you. So today we're going to give an update on the Knowledge Park. Knowledge Park is a research and technology park that's located, as many of you may be aware, in Fredericton. It is on UNB lands, so the park leases the land from the University of New Brunswick. And it was established in the late 90s to act as a tool for economic development for Fredericton and Oromocto, for the area, surrounding area. I actually used to run the Knowledge Park back in 2006 until about 2010, and then started my practice in 2010. And we actually work with communities of innovation and knowledge parks throughout Canada and the US. And so we've been helping and supporting the Knowledge Park team to develop a strategy for going forward and bring back that initial purpose of economic development for our region, so that we can really lean into the opportunities here for our communities to drive new employment opportunities, new investment into our region, particularly with all the exciting things happening in certain sectors, including defense, which of course Oromocto is a key player on the defense side. And so the goal for the discussion today is just to walk you through a little bit of a process that we went through in 2025 and where we're heading next, and the role of what we think that looks like for Oromocto, and where we've been in. So I'll just continue forward. Here we go. Yes. So we went through a strategic planning process last year. The Knowledge Park has been in a transition. We had a CEO in the role a few years ago, but then we had some changes with that. And so there's been some interim positions over the last period of time. And so now we've hired a full-time CEO, Josh Waite, and we're excited for him to start in the role and bring some of those programming elements back in. So there'll be some further announcements coming in the future around that. And so then we want to talk about the role of the town and the Knowledge Park going forward. So there's a number of things that we looked at. Very happy to answer any questions that anyone has, or chat offline if you'd like more details. But we looked at a financial model review and a 10-year forecast. So we wanted to make sure first and foremost that the Knowledge Park is a sustaining and growing concern operation, and that we've got the appropriate tenants that are leasing space in the premises, and also that we're offering the right programming. And so we looked at the financial model. We also looked at the governance structure, and that's really what we're going to be talking about today, and the ownership review. Knowledge Park was established as a for-profit entity back in 1995-ish. And at the time, the ownership was a partnership with the University of New Brunswick, the town of Oromocto, the city of Fredericton. ACOA was at the table of the province of New Brunswick, and Enterprise Fredericton, which at the time was GFEDC. Many of you would have seen the GFEDC network at that time. And so the not-for-profit that owned the Knowledge Park was under GFEDC, which was the Economic Development Organization. So there's been some transitions over time, and I'll talk very briefly about that and where we're going next with that. We also did a leasing review. So we looked at the tenants that are currently located in the park, the sectors that they're in, and where we think that we'd like that to go in the future. These are economic potential. So a little bit about the structure. So right now, Knowledge Park is owned by a for-profit corporation, Greater Fredericton Knowledge Park Incorporated. And then that entity is actually owned, they switched, we went through a transition a few years ago where Ignite was actually, was GFEDC, and Ignite and Knowledge Park sort of separated the marriage. They got a divorce. So they divorced a few years ago. And so there was a new entity that was formed, Greater Fredericton Community Economic Development Agency, just to keep things cleaner around the real estate assets and the economic development purpose and function. So Ignite is still existing, of course, but this new not-for-profit was established and now owns the for-profit Knowledge Park. So of this new not-for-profit, it has 3 current members. So it's the city of Fredericton, the town of Oromocto, and the village of Maryland. So those were the current members These have been the members of GFEDC going back to when it was established in like 1995. And so no real change there. But this is what we're hoping to evolve as we look forward to the future. So the new model in New Maryland had reached out to us sometime last year, just sort of expressing their interest. They've been a fairly silent partner over the years, not really clear on their role, very much on the sector focus. And so they have indicated that they would like to no longer be part of the entity, which is no problem. And so we are proposing that the membership would be the city of Fredericton, the town of Oromocto, which is the same, Ignite Fredericton, and UNB. The proposed addition of Ignite is so that we can keep the focus on economic development and really tying it back to attracting companies that are appropriate for our region. And we wanted UNB to be at the table because while UNB is the landowner of the Knowledge Park, they haven't been as active a partner as we would have liked since the inception. And this goes back to when Bud Bird, who many of you would know from Fredericton, who we all love and adore so much. When that was all started back in the mid-90s, there was always a hope and a dream to have UNB as a very much engaged participant in the Knowledge Park, so that we could see the translation of research that's being done at the university translating into companies that are starting up, or students that are graduating being employed at the companies that are at the Knowledge Park. And so there's a real purpose in having these four entities actually part of the future mission of the Knowledge Park to really drive these economic development priorities. And so when you look at it for the strategic guidance, it continues to be the not-for-profit owner, which has members that would be incorporated as the stewards of the strategic vision. So making sure that we focus on the city, the town of Oromocto, as well as that focus on the University of New Brunswick to really lean into that. And then Ignite for economic development. The oversight is really where we have the Knowledge Park, which is the for-profit entity. And we know this is all a little bit muddy, but the for-profit entity will have 8 to 12 board members. And so right now this is in the works that we are adding new members. So the 4 members of the not-for-profit will sit on the for-profit board, and we will add other strategic members to the Knowledge Park for-profit entity. And then the implementation is really where we get into the staff and the team that's there. So as I mentioned, there is a new CEO that's in place. There's an operations manager, there's administrative and leasing accounting support, and then we're looking to add potentially a programming support person so that we can really increase that offering to the companies that are currently located there, as well as the ones that we hope to attract. And so those are the 3 layers. So again, the not-for-profit is stewardship, the for-profit is really the oversight and moving the agenda items forward in partnership with the staff of the Knowledge Park. So if we look at the partner roles, so again, UNB would be about talent pipeline, research, and facilities. So they're going to be the champion for education and research. Ignite is about sector development and business services. So they would be the champion for economic development. The city of Fredericton is around policy alignment, zoning, community development. So they would be the champion for community development and acceleration. The town of Oromocto, really in particular around the defense sector and how we can really leverage the presence of the second largest military base in the country, making sure that we've got the right local infrastructure and how we really champion that opportunity with the base and helping them to do all that they can do here in our community. And then Knowledge Park would be around the leasing, the day-to-day operations, the financial management, and as the champion of implementation and accountability. So that's the main partner roles that we see. And so for the town of Oromocto and the purpose of really just getting everybody's feedback today is that we really want to make sure that each partner is playing a strategic role in the stewardship of Knowledge Park as an economic tool for the region and really bringing it back to its original mandate and mission when it first was developed in the late 90s and early 2000s. The town of Oromocto participation in the capacity as a member of the not-for-profit will ensure the alignment with the town's strategic plan and economic development priorities, including finding ways to leverage the base for broader economic benefit. And so not much is really changing, actually. The only thing that we're sort of bringing forward today is that there is a change in the other 2 partners around the table and the move from having the Village of Maryland as part of that ownership structure and really what that means to bring in Ignite and UNB at this point. And so when we look at the ownership, there's, members do not have any financial gain or risk associated with being a member of the not-for-profit, much like it has been, for the last number of years. The shares, for the, organization, so the incorporated entity is a regular for-profit entity, and all of its shares are owned by the not-for-profit entity. And so the role of the membership is not to financially benefit from or control the direction of the not-for-profit. The land, in fact, reverts back to the University of New Brunswick at the conclusion of the land lease. And so it's pretty clearly laid out with all that. And so for the liability, there is no liability as members of the not-for-profit. And the member is free to forfeit any of its membership and walk away at any time. There's no implications in any way in that way, but again, I'm very happy to chat that through. And members of the not-for-profit do not own any shares of the Knowledge Park, and they don't have any, again, liability for the activities of the Knowledge Park. It's really about stewardship, making sure we all stay focused on mission and mandate, which is really about economic development and ensuring that we can use this as a tool to drive growth in our community. So I'm going to pause there because then we want to put a motion on the table, and the motion is really to ensure that the CAO of the town of Oromocto could continue to maintain presence on both the not-for-profit and on the for-profit entities of the Knowledge Park and its not-for-profit owner. This is a similar exercise that we've been going through with the other partners, so we'll be doing a similar presentation to City of Fredericton next week. We've already done this at the Ignite board, and that's been approved, and same as at the University of New Brunswick. So I'm very happy to answer any questions that you have before we move on to the proposed motion.
Any questions, council? Concerns?
Yes.
Thank you, Worship. Just a question about staffing.
Yes.
Where do they see the staffing maxing out at for Knowledge Park?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So Knowledge Park, with the size of the footprint, so we currently have about 300,000 square feet of space with the cyber center and then the other 5 buildings on the main area. Most parks throughout North America would have somewhere between 3 and 12 employees, let's say. Knowledge Park right now has 3. The average size of the park in North America is probably 600,000 square feet. And so Knowledge Park could potentially build other infrastructure over time. The occupancy is looking pretty good, and there may be some opportunities there. So right now we're forecasting in our 10-year forecast, we put in, we have at least adding 1 more person on the programming side, but over time also potentially adding a leasing person. So you might end up having, for the size of the park in the community, you probably have maybe 5 or 6. But then you'd also have other partners that sub things in. Ignite, for example, while they're not full-time employees, they can contract to provide some back-end support to the team. If they need it for processing, if there's any grants that we can secure, they can help sort of with some back-end support with that. Ignite also has full-time marketing resources, so we may be able to leverage them for those types of services. So sort of fractional support through partner organizations and other service providers. But for full-time, that would be about the range.
And one quick follow-up.
Yeah.
What's the current lease percentage? Did you say 50-60% lease now?
No, their leasing is actually pretty good right now. So I think that we are at about 85 to 89% occupancy at this time. The cyber building's around 80% right now, which we know was which we know was has been a focus over the last couple of years. And in the other buildings, the other 5 buildings, there's they're probably about 90% in the other 5 buildings.
Yeah, just that's the big one that was dark for a while.
It was the cyber center that was a bit of a challenge, but the work for EMO has begun, and they will be opened later this year, early next year. And that will take up 1 full floor actually in the cyber building. And then there's just a couple of small spaces left actually after that one. There's a 10,000, a 5,000, and maybe a 2,000. So it's not much left to work with, which is good. Yeah.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And that's pretty good, by the way, for national averages right now, because post-COVID office rates are 13 to 16% still vacancy throughout North America. And research parks are more like around 6 to 9% is what we're seeing, that the occupancy levels have been rising quite a bit, and Knowledge Park is really on track to do that. And now with the new CEO in place, hopefully that will just continue to improve. Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions, council? Okay.
Thanks, Laura.
No problem, thank you. So I will leave that with you then.
Yeah, so there's the consideration, your worship, of the motion. And really, it's just if everybody's comfortable with that, then we'll make sure we drop that motion for regular council on Thursday. Or if there's questions to it, we can certainly try to endeavor to answer them now, or.
Any questions or concerns? Also, Duff?
I'm just, because I'm not quite sure, this is why I'm asking, so there's not a whole lot of change other than the restructure,
That's
right?
Yeah.
And our CAO was already on that, so
That's right.
because it's restructured, we're just supporting a new motion, so you can move forward.
That's right.
Okay,
Thank you for the clarification. Yes, exactly. There's actually no change real for, as it relates to the town of Oromocto. It's more making you aware as well that we're adding in Ignite and UMB, and we're really optimistic and excited about what the future may bring with the integration of those organizations. Yeah.
And your worship, just in fairness, there's no change on our part, but I guess the detail in this motion is that they're looking at it from a role perspective. So we're not necessarily suggesting John Jackson, but we're suggesting the CAO of the town of Oromocto.
Correct.
And that was a bit of a change because the previous, it didn't suggest that it had to be the CAO. It could have been anybody from the town of Oromocto. And this is being a little more prescriptive in that. So just for everybody's full awareness there.
And that is consistent with what we've done with the other organizations as well. It's the role and the position.
So president of the UNB, CAO of Fredericton, CEO of Ignite. So they go with roles instead of having them be potentially random people of those organizations, which doesn't always lend to consistency.
I know.
so the decision makers, basically.
That's right.
Yeah.
That makes sense, total sense.
Yeah.
Council Kirkbride?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just, this, for my own curiosity's sake, so I know you said the village of Maryland decided to step back. And it is a greater Fredericton area. Was the area of Hanwell considered?
Hanwell was, when we first established the Knowledge Park, they were not, I don't believe they were an incorporated entity at that time. Because again, that's back in 95, so, no, but they would be, woven in with the work that Ignite's doing around the service commissions, they would be captured in that catchment area anyway. So certainly included. Ignite's currently working on a workforce development strategy, for example, and the areas in and around that, would be encompassed. So thank you for flagging that they would be, as part of that de facto would be, yeah.
Any other questions for Laura? No? Okay.
Great, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your meeting.
Yes. All right, we'll move to 3B. Next up is our Sergeant at Arms. Stefan.
Good evening. So it's been a while. I missed the last meeting, the week before, wasn't too hard on you guys.
No, and we weren't hard on him either, so.
That's good. Well, it hasn't worked since.
Well, maybe we were hard on him.
It's been crying a lot, that's okay. So obviously, same speech as usual about the quarterly report. I mean, we're pretty much at the end of Q4 right now, but we're presenting Q3, so there's not really much I want to talk about. I guess on page 4, just looking at the numbers for the year. One thing that really jumped at me was the property crimes going down from, I guess, 139 previous year to 88 this year, which is pretty good, because like we've always had complaints of theft from vehicles in Oromocto, especially Oromocto West and the PNQ's area. We haven't had many of those this year, knock on wood. I mean, with the nice weather, it might start again, but you know, we've been pretty good for property crime. The rest seem pretty even compared to what they used to be. So I think division wide, I guess the crime rate has gone down. Obviously, we have a little bit more serious crimes at times, not so much in our Oromocto area, but like the crime rate has gone down, so it's a good thing. As far as the page on the like tickets and warnings, like our traffic unit is regularly coming here and doing traffic enforcement. Our members are doing it as well. As of the last month, there's a full-time traffic member in Maryland who is very handy to Oromocto. So the last few years, there was the closest ones were in Moncton or Woodstock. So now we have somebody in Maryland that will spend quite a bit of time in Oromocto. So as usual, if you have any issues, anything that your constituents are mentioning, feel free to reach out to us. These guys love to give tickets. They would probably ticket their own mom if they could. So if there's no issues, so just let us know and we can direct them where you need to go. So there's really not that much talked about. It's gone down in page 9 and 10. You can see everything seems to be going down as for RC 11, not just Oromocto. So knock on wood, it kind of stays the same. So as usually, just if you have any questions, concern, anything you want to talk about.
Councilor Kirkbride?
Thank you, worship. The young folks are out on the machines already. They're flying down Donald Avenue, Colbert Street, Gardner Street. They're going right down there, Michi Avenue. I saw on the 4-wheeler going right down Wassis Road already. So they're out already. And just so your folks are aware. It's usually right after supper, around 6 o'clock.
Okay.
As soon as they get home from school and they have their supper and then they're on the road. Sunday was there was a convoy of, I think I counted 11 by my head.
No way.
They were on the road, they're not using.
Right on the road.
Because the trails are probably still.
It's covered with snow the other on Sunday, right? So they were down the road.
Okay, yeah, we'll definitely keep an eye on that, but we've already had,
11.
11, I can't.
we've already had a lot of good success with Chief Ball at the Oromocto
Yeah.
Station. He has no tolerance for that. He said anytime we have a picture of any TV or a dirt bike that we believe comes from OFN,
I know.
he will have to fight whoever that person is, and he's done it for us, so.
And I know his son quite well, so. Too.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that, and we can even look into partnership with Justice Public Safety. They've helped us quite a bit, just because.
And when they had that thaw last week before that snow ice storm, and they were on trail.
Okay.
And speaking of rocks going back up sometime. The 4-wheelers normally can't get down, there's only the bikes, the 4-wheelers are all over the trail.
Really?
Yeah, your worship, that's a discussion that we're trying to have now in terms of blocks and restrictions and so it's definitely on our minds as we get ready for the summer season.
So I know we removed them so the plows can get through a
Yeah.
walking trail and that sort of thing. And I'm just wondering if, once winter's over,
Yeah,
if there's something's gonna go back up.
yeah, I mean, certainly, I guess at this point, they can go back up if that's the whole wish of council, for sure. I do know that Jackie and her crew are working together with the city too to try to develop a more comprehensive plan and one that is a double-edged sword between not looking uninviting to go down and restricting access to, people who shouldn't be on the trails. And it's one of those things where, certainly, there are some points where we can restrict access on trails because we have agreements. There's other points that we can't because we don't have agreements. But if it's the wish of council to put those barricades up, if you will, then that's what we'll do.
Councilor Bell?
Thank you. Thank you for bringing that up because I was going to mention it as well. And because the nice weather has hit, they're tearing down Wassis Road and I live ward, so it's right down on the Daggett, and they just gunner fly down there, late in his tapping because of nicer weather, and then just passing on through and going on down behind on the Daggett. So I'm sure the people down there in those new apartments won't appreciate that either this summer.
No, if I just made myself a note, so I'll make sure it's, as you know, we're running through pursuing these people. But, if we can identify them, if we have pictures, videos, by all means, we have no issues issuing tickets, using bikes. And then, so feel free to pass it on to us, but we'll reach out to, off-road vehicle enforcement from Justice Public Safety.
And just a further follow-up, I want to say how I appreciate the format of this report. Very easy to snap a picture on your phone so that when certain people are saying that the RCMP aren't doing anything, that the traffic on Rusty Rouge Road is terrible. And it just happened that I had read the report and saw all those beautiful dots down at the bottom of Rusty Rouge and the numbers. So I just snapped those two pictures, and today I found him and I said, follow up to your conversation with him to say that our RCMP are doing their work. These are the numbers and these are where the areas are. Oh, okay. So I said, thank you very much for addressing that, and I appreciate it in the
That's
report.
good, and again, it's valid for everybody else in the council. If you do have a specific request, let's say, for example, somebody says, Rusty Rouge Road, you guys are not doing anything as far as traffic enforcement. I can run stats that are more than this report. I can tell you like not every day, but like how many tickets, how many warnings we've given, when, and for what, how many times we've had a request for assistance or a call for service, because sometimes what happens is people say the RCMP is not doing anything, but then you look at the calls for service, well, nobody's made us aware.
Mhm.
So some people like to complain.
This was sufficient to make him.
Great. But
Thankful.
and so, yeah, if there's anything, if somebody approaches you with the most random question about a type of call in a specific area, feel free to reach out to me. I can get the stats on pretty much anything in a few minutes.
I know. And maybe Cindy, we should put a notice out on our Facebook.
But I made a note here that
And it's, and advise them, maybe best thing to do is take a picture, because that helps us. Because it helped me, I got two kids to stop a couple of years ago because I took their pictures and people recognized them. Especially teachers, because
Yeah.
they know the kids in school.
The staff at OHS is always very useful.
Yeah.
Because we've all seen the teenagers for the last 20 years, you know, all of them stuff. And that's easier, so.
Any other questions or comments, Council?
Yeah, I'll be talking to you guys next week again for the priority setting meeting, I think on the
Right.
23rd, so. Even if you guys want to try and wrap your heads around what would be the initiative for Oromocto, we kind of try and keep the same kind of group of activities. Last year I added the park patrol. I haven't seen as many damage or mischief at the parks.
It was the best year ever.
So
The
that's
garbage
the
are in it.
plan to push for that again, this, because I had the task assigned to every single team, so every night shift, we conducting patrols at parks in Hazen Park, Deer Park, Anniversary, and then the boat lawn in Bash Road in Lincoln.
Yeah.
So that's my plan to keep it going again for this year, but if you think of an activity that is specific to the area, that we could keep an eye on.
Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Worship, and of course, I need to say this because you said something about parks. You are correct, things have gotten progressively better, but I would submit that things have gotten progressively better, not simply by fluke. They have gotten progressively better because not only have you folks made targeted and intentional decisions to be present and to make appearances, but also the town has invested in ensuring we have safe and supervised areas at peak times in which people who would want to do something that they shouldn't are present. So I think that the conjunction of not only us making that investment, but also you folks being there has really paid off and has made a big difference.
I'm glad that worked, and then if there have been any other problem areas that you guys would like to work on or do something about, by all means, like I'm all for working, starting some initiatives and working in conjunction with the Oromocto.
Perfect. We like working with you.
So, and as of, right now, I'm in a different role, overseeing all RC 11, but starting April 7th, I'll be back in my in my actual role in Oromocto. So I'll introduce you to the new staff sergeant as well, who might be the point of contact for.
Yeah.
Oromocto.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you very much. Good evening.
Thank you, Matt. All right, we'll move down to number 4, the monthly departmental reports. We'll start with the Department of Engineering and Public Works. David's here if there's any questions or comments. And I assume that's none. All right. We move to Planning and Compliance Department. Any questions or concerns? None? Okay. Move to the Department of Finance. Any issues? It's early yet in the process, but. Okay. We'll move down to Department of Human Resources. Nothing. Department of Corporate Services. Councilor Da.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a question on the second bullet. Whoops, I'm on the wrong one. Oh, just for a funding update, when the funding is listed there year to date with the 18 applicant projects and the applications and that, what is it centered around?
Oh,
Everything?
oh, yeah, I mean, that's 18 separate applications centered on anything from piping in ground infrastructure to sidewalks to fire halls to energy efficiency to, yeah, just a multitude of different files.
Okay, and I'm waiting on 2 approvals of 36 million. So is that for anything in particular?
The 2 that we're waiting approval, one, the 36 million is our community recreation center. We're still waiting to hear back on that one. And the other one that we're still waiting for is our wastewater treatment a solution to Oromocto West.
Okay, so are those 2 particular ones were in place before we hired the new person to go after? Financing? No, after? Oh,
Yeah.
excellent, then so it seems to be proving successful, or it looks to have great potential.
Oh, yeah, I mean, look, we couldn't have half of these applications made in all together without somebody who's been able to spend the time to coordinate and reach out and get the specific information from different departments and then stay on top of them when they get filed.
Good, thank you.
Right, we'll move on to the staff report, the Department of Recreation and Tourism. Let's see, 2026 is gonna be the National Ball Hockey, and 2027, the outdoorsman show and a benefit concert for fly ball tournament. So there's gonna be some happening things going on there. All right. And last, I think, is the Oromocto Fire Department. Any questions or concerns? Councilor Carr.
Again, this is, again, more of a question in general. Obviously, the rising cost of fuel is on the radar, probably as the town. Looking forward to having to address some of these things, like the summer months are probably when we consume quite a bit of fuel and it double the cost of those sort of looking like right now. Do we have any extra plans to try to mitigate that, or? I know obviously like everybody, we're all just kind of at the mercy of it, but.
Yeah.
Like a reduction in any kind of services that would save on that or in any way, or are we just gonna have to just absorb it as we?
At this point, your worship, there aren't necessarily any targeted reductions there. We're always at the mercy when we do a budget of trying to place what we think is a reasonable amount on fuel. Yeah, of course, we're gonna see that rise. our summer months usually aren't as bad as our winter, from a fuel, we spend a lot of fuel pushing snow around, so, hopefully maybe by the time the snow comes back around, we'll see, fuel prices come back down, but in the meantime, I mean, staff's always, I guess, directed to try to find efficiencies where they can. I mean, we'll roll back into some of the things we did last year when it comes to grass and mowing grass and the areas that we found were successful in not mowing.
Every other model.
That kind of thing,
Thank you.
but those things, to be honest, in the big picture,
Don't save the big
don't
one.
save big money, but we'll do our best where we can, for sure.
Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Worship. I would presume that in instances like this, which are things for which you could not foresee or budget or so on, as the year goes on and as different tenders or things are come up that are significantly below, you can find efficiencies to offset another budget line for which you couldn't and still be okay at the end of the year for the bottom line. I mean,
Yeah,
just the nature of how nimble budgets need to be when those things come up.
correct. Yeah. So, I mean, we'll keep an eye on it. It's something that, obviously we'll manage as things go along. Again, we can hope that, maybe some of this will be shorter lived than that. But right now we're not sure. But, we do, on that point, though, we do usually build a bit of contingency on gas price year over year anyway. So, we're still good now, but it's a fair point, and to make sure that the folks over at Public Works are keeping a mindful eye on it as we head into the summer.
We'll go to the last one, the clerk's office. Any questions or concerns? Nope. Okay. Then we'll move down to administration. We start with 5A, the tender award of Sear Street Extension. David Goodfellow.
Thank you, Your Worship. Your request for decision is regarding the Sear Street extension. Beginning in 2022, the town of Oromocto constructed the first phase of Sear Street to accommodate commercial development opportunities, paving, curbing was complete the following year, 2023. February 2024, a design proposal was requested to further extend Sear Street. The intent was to complete the remaining design of each roadway segment running between Black Lodge Avenue and Cherry Box Drive. The design and preliminary tender documents were completed in late 2024. Subsequently, funding opportunities were approved in the spring of 2025 to assist with the project construction cost. 50% from the Canadian Housing Infrastructure Fund, or CHIP. 37.5% from the New Brunswick Regional Development Corporation, RDC, and 12.5% to be contributed by the town. These funds are to be allocated for the roadway construction of the Sear Street extension, complete with lot servicing, sidewalks, street lighting. For the town to budget for its contribution, it's decided to defer construction until 2026. On February 24th, 2026, EPW 26-001 was posted to the NDON website requesting services to construct Sear Street. We received 7 submissions. On March 11th, the engineer's cost estimate for this project was, including taxes, was $1,425,731.25. As part of this project, to allow for the settling of estimated materials that will be paving and it be moved from this phase, which will be completed for next year. The lowest bid received for this tender was submitted by Charters Construction Limited, including tax was $1,417,655.60. At 12.5%, the town's construction contribution would be $154,093 plus HST. Town's budgeted funding contribution for Sear Street extension is through capital account number 9118, the amount of $762,525. This leaves a balance of $562,430 remaining of the town's expenses. Department of Engineering and Public Works recommends that the town council approves and accepts the bid amount from Charters Construction Limited to proceed with the construction services at Sear Street Extension.
Questions, council? Councilor Goff?
Thank you. It's not a question, it's more a comment. I'm impressed that it is 7 submissions. It's a nice figure
Yes.
to have. And thank you very much for including the tax, so I can see. I was. Chuckled when I read that at home.
So was that warm and fuzzy, council? Okay, all right, thanks, David. Move to 5B, the draft minutes of the February 19th, 2026 regular session is before you. Any errors or omissions, please let Cynthia know as soon as possible. And now I'll ask for a mover for an adjournment. Councillor. Oh, Kirk Ride and Councillor Wayland. Questions? All in favor? Contrary? Motion carried. But looking this way, didn't see you.